Hey, this is PoeticWhiz. I'm going to talk about the new iPhone 16 SE. Finally, Apple had dropped the moniker of iPhone SE and they have straight away gone for the new naming scheme as the iPhone 16e. I'm glad they have gone this route for many different ways, and I'm glad that finally Apple has done something way more different than we totally expected. And personally, I had expected this to happen in some way or the other. In fact, I made a whole dedicated video of my dream iPhone, and Apple has just delivered that. I feel with the iPhone 16e. I know iPhone 16 SE is not perfect, but it's far better than what we could possibly expect and Apple to give us in many possible ways. I have my own downside, like I'm a bit bumped up, but at the same time, I really feel overall the package with the iPhone 16e is great in many ways. Talking about the design, in retrospect, it almost feels similar to the iPhone 14, 13, and the 15. But where it gets a bit, it has a downgrade is we go back to the notch design than the dynamic island. I personally prefer the dynamic island. Notch is fine, but it's okay, I can deal with that. But it would have been better if Apple had given the dynamic island. But it's fine in one way or the other. At least Apple maybe is cross cutting it, I mean budget making it maybe the dynamic cost much, or it's just Apple's way of saying no, we cannot give that, and it's just a pro feature or is exclusive only to the 15 series and the 16 series onwards. I know 14 and 14 to do the dynamic, but that's what I just have to say. I'm glad that we finally see an action button over the mute button or silent button, whatever it is. Make its way to the, I mean, action button makes its way to the iPhone 16e. I knew this would happen for most part because I was 99.1% sure this will happen. And the reason why I'm saying this is because traditionally Apple has always been iconic for its silent button. Like if you ask me, even till now, I put my phone on a silent mode because I'm not someone who calls people a lot. I prefer text over calls. And the other thing is, the great thing, I'm not too disappointed of this going away and action button making an inception with the iPhone 16e. Only because the action button feels a lot more like user friendly, or I would say multitask. Like it feels more, how to say, you can do more things with the action button than you could have done with the silent switch. Is what my basically perspective is. And the other good thing is with action button, which I totally did not expect, but somewhere within me I was like hoping this to make its way, and I feel Apple has done it, and that is the visual intelligence or whatever. We see visual intelligence make its comeback or make its appearance in the iPhone 16e in a very different way, but in a very subtle and a very what do you say? In a great way, I would say. If you ask me, the placement of visual intelligence on the 16e is much better than what it is in the iPhone 16 regular and the Pro series. Then having it in the camera button, having it in the action button made more sense. I feel. I wish Apple can find a way that using shortcuts within the action button could use visual intelligence. If that is possible, I feel we would not be needing visual button as a default app or just a one single app or sort of like how we have Shazam with the action button. Not the same with visual intelligence. What basically I'm trying to tell you. And yeah, I'm really glad Apple made the switch of like bringing the action button to the iPhone 16e. I'm very happy with. Even though I'm disappointed we did not get the dynamic, I'm still happy with it. There's one thing that everyone is talking on. Personally, me, I'm like in a bit haywire or in a mixed boat. I would personally say that's the C1 chip, that the Apple in-house modem. This is something we have to test, trial, and see how it lasts for the coming 6 months or a year or so down the line, and then I feel we'll have a better understanding and a better perspective of how good of a chip the C1 is. My only thing, like my concern or like what something where Apple never does this, but if Apple's quoting that the battery of the iPhone 16e is longer than the regular 16 series and the Pro, It's breathtaking, groundbreaking in my way, I feel. It's something I never thought Apple would do it or like address it in the spec sheet, but we have seen that. My only concern is if this C1 does what the Mac M1 did in the inception, then I feel Apple has like will blow the market off in the next coming years, I feel. Regardless of which iPhone product you're using or which Apple product you're using for that matter. We're currently, if you ask me, the Mac lineup has been solid now. Like no matter what Mac you get for yourself, let it be the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, or the Mini for that instance, you don't need to think much now because price, configuration, everything is sorted out by Apple. You just need to just pick whatever you want. Either you need to pick the RAM or the configuration storage you want. Apart from that, everything is seamless, I feel, with Apple. Same goes with the iPad, but iPad I feel is like still in its own a mixed boat, I feel, if you ask me. Because Apple with only the budget iPad things feel like a downgrade. Like when I say downgrade, I feel the display is not the best. The cellular or whatever the Wi-Fi, this thing is okay, but it can be done the more basic task. Apart from that, I feel the iPad line is fine in my regards. And yes, now that we have A18 on the iPhone 16, it's great. Alongside the Apple Intel, I feel it's great. I am still not too convinced, or I still feel like this Apple Intel still feels like a gimmick, but at the same time, it's only a very handy few features that I personally would use, like the writing tool and the proofreading and another thing. Apart from that, I don't think so I would be using Apple Intelligence much. As for the notification summary and other things, it's okay, but at the same time, nothing something I would personally consider that to be great for me in my day-to-day use. So yeah, while I was talking about the battery life, yes. If Apple claimed it to be better than the 16 and 16 regular, I feel this would be the best iPhone for anybody, especially for those like me who are still yet to upgrade the iPhone from iPhone 6, and for those who are still using the old iPhone like the iPhone 13, 12 or before that or whatever. This upgrade would be a much better in many ways, and I feel iPhone in the budget segment, like if I talk about the previous iPhone SE model, battery was the main concern apart from the iPhone mini, but I feel Apple's like this time will give the battery a much bigger improvement and bigger this thing. I'm not too sure if Apple mentioned this or no, but I somewhere feel if Apple somewhere up to at least what is 50 or 80% like give this in the iPhone SE in a minute way. When I say it is I'm talking about the vapor cooling system. The something that we have seen in the regular iPhone 16 and the Pro. If we get on the if we find that in the iPhone 16e, it would be great, I feel. Just like for longevity purpose. And yes, before I forget and before I forget to address this, yeah, we all might be thinking, okay, iPhone 16 might not be the phone for everyone, but if you look at iPhone SE from a different perspective, if you remove the flaws and look at the good fresh perspective what Apple had to offer, the key thing would be for me personally would be those who are into software support, who prefers Apple software update because you get your minor features or breakthrough features like you feel okay you might be using it and okay this is the one, or you just want the longevity support. iPhone SE 16 clears that gap. One, the software gap. Second, the longevity of usage and the battery life. Okay, I'm someone, as I always said, I'm not a camera geek, and camera is not something I personally would be using on a day-to-day basis. So for me, that single lens camera is great. Apple calls it like two-in-one camera for the 48 megapixel. Here's where I am a bit disappointed, I would say, or I was a bit bummed because I was just recently like somebody had addressed this via Twitter, I feel, or I'm not too YouTube, I'm not too certain. I think the YouTube, yes. Yeah, TechVisor had mentioned that we do not see the photographic style. Personally, if you ask me, if there's anything I love about the iPhone 16 series, it would be the photographic style. It's great. I feel you can the ability to tweak before and after is something seamless. I know we cannot get the audio mixing feature which we currently have on the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max, but that's fine with me. That is fine because personally, if you ask me, with audio and iPhone are great. You don't need to tweak much, but that's just an added advantage or added benefit you get with the 16 and 16 Pro series, and that not having on the iPhone 16e is fine with me. But this photographic style, I feel, should have been there on the iPhone 16e because that just changes the game in many ways. I mean, I'm not a camera nerd, but that's something I personally, as a end user, would prefer it than anything else apart from any camera feature. People are saying the camera is not that great with the iPhone 16 SE, but we have yet to test it and yet to see how the results are. But personally, for me, I'm fine with the single lens camera and 48 megapixel being the default factor. Yeah, yeah, we do get this time only just two colors, that is black and white, and I feel that's fine. Maybe we are not getting product red, but that's fine. But yes, if product red was there, certainly there would be a gone for a good cause. But apart from that, I feel, I don't know, it's just the partnership with Apple and Red has not come to an end, or something could be just between those two companies. But apart from that, yeah, we are getting two colors, that is white and black. Coming to something I hoped would be true, and I'm glad it is true, that the storage tier. Finally, we are getting 128 GB of storage tier as a base storage, and then moving up to 256 or whatever. And if you ask me, now here where I feel 128 GB is okay, fine, because I'm still using a 128 GB on myself iPhone 6s, which is fine for me in most regard, in most scenarios. But I have heard that recently, or like over the years, like the apps what we are using on a day-to-day basis, the file size have gotten bigger, and the photo size have reduced much less. And I feel that much less of the photo, I would say, is due to because Apple has changed the, what do you say, photo format of the, I think the photo and video, but I'm sure the photo format has been changed to a smaller size since the iPhone 7 launch. And as for the, what do you say, apps, it's going big in size. Just my take on how I see the storage price and the factor keeping in, like many people have said, that the apps have gotten bigger as the years goes by or the months goes by. I have two perspectives on this. One, it really depends on what app you are using. Second, how many apps you have been installed on your phone on a, what do you say, over the course of the year. Let's take a 1 year or so. If you personally ask me, there are some apps I personally don't use on a day-to-day basis, but I feel I need, I mean, I would need it. I would need those apps sometime around, like at least on a weekly basis, or just randomly I would have a need of it. Then there are apps that I feel might boost my productivity to 100x. And I feel that so far, whatever iOS apps I have come across lately, there are very few that I feel I might use it for the next 5 to 10 years, and I feel that's where this, the opinion or this objective of like the file size would get bigger as the years progress, basically I'm trying to say. The only thing with me, I'm fine with 128 GB as a default factor is because, one, as I told you, we have our own apps, we use different apps different ways and for different purposes, creativity, finance, or whatever. But at the same time, I don't know, this is just me, my notion, like I feel like, okay, it's high time 256 GB should be a default, like what something Samsung has been doing. And I feel Samsung has been doing for last year, I feel, last year or so, with the S24 series onwards. Apple has improved the RAM, that we have got default 8 GB RAM across the board and 128 GB storage. Now here's something I know many people are not happy with Apple's approach, but I feel I'm in a mixed boat, or I'm just in a minority or in the niche. I feel that yes, I was expecting this to be 599, regardless of how Apple put the iPhone. I would have been bummed if there was no action button, or let's say the dynamic island. Then I would have been a bit bummed, and I would say, okay, the 590 is too too expensive, or not the phone for you. But since we have an action button, I feel the justification okay in some aspect. Whichever way you look at the iPhone SE, but I still feel 599 should have not been the price. Should have either been 499 or 450. It would have been good. If I talk about the Indian pricing, I feel it should have been below 50k. It would have been a sweet sweet spot for anyone who want to venture into the iPhone 16e, and for those who want to upgrade to an iPhone in a very budget friendly ecosystem, or whatever I would say, or into the whole Apple budget friendly ecosystem basically. Firstly, I'm really happy with the iPhone 16e, and there's nothing much I have like I'm annoyed or griped or bumped about this new iPhone 16e. But yes, my only wish was if it had dynamic island and photographic style. These are the two things I really wish iPhone 16e could have. But apart from that, I'm really happy. But my main concern is how the battery life will extend, or how will it perform. If the battery life could do what something that the regular iPhone 13 did when it was initially launched and initially in the inception, if that same we can get in the iPhone 16e, I would say this will be the next big thing after the iPhone 13, or the 13 series for that matter. Yes, I hope you have all catched it that when the Apple keynote was happening of this whole iPhone 16 SE, you did notice Apple briefly talking, like showing a hint of like how the iPhone 16 SE is better than the previous iPhone 11 models. The one takeaway I would take away from that makes give me a somewhat of assurance when Apple says, okay, this battery life is better than the regular 16 and 16 Pro. The assurance where I get that is I have been rocking iPhone 11, not in the inception, but somewhat like that. And I can tell one thing: the regular iPhone 11 is great. It has a great battery life. It's not the best phone. I mean, not the best phone for me. Basically, I don't prefer wider phones. But as a whole, the phone is really great. And if Apple is claiming that sort of a battery life that's better than the iPhone 11 and the ones have come after it, then I feel that's the one. I feel the iPhone SE is the one you should get, regardless of there's iPhone 15 in the side. I know iPhone 15. If yes, if iPhone 15 had the regular iPhone 15 had the action button and the or Apple into any of these two, then I feel the iPhone 16 would have not made sense for many people. But now I feel if you take aside, this is how I see the if you are going for iPhone 15 versus the iPhone 16e. If you love dynamic island and not too fuss about the action button, go for the 15. If you want the Apple Intelligence feature and the action button, go for the 16e. Or else not. Just if you can spend or splurge a bit more, get the 15 Pro. I would say not the 16 Pro or the 16 series. Reason why being is one, the camera button sucks. It's not great. It's not something you'll be using on a day-to-day basis. Second, 15 Pro might not have the best battery life, but it's still better than the most. It's still better than what do you say, the iPhone 16e and the 16 Pro in my regard. Basically, the 16 series. That's how I would put it. But yes, if if you can get iPhone 16e, if you can wait a bit longer and get the iPhone 16 around 599, below like around 400 or 450 or 499 like that, the iPhone SE, then it's a banger deal. I feel for those in India who can get the iPhone below 50k, that would be the best time to buy the iPhone, then buy it now immediately. I feel you should hold on to whatever current phone you are having, and at the same time I feel you should hold on to the iPhone X. Look at it, how it performed over a year or so, or down the line, the 6 months down the line, how iPhone SE feels. But I'm really happy with the decision making of what Apple had done. I wish Apple had given us what Samsung usually does. I know I was going to talk about, and I can stop raving about how something Samsung does better than Apple. And yes, I'm going to still state that Samsung might have different, like they might have 100 smartphone, 200 smartphone over the course of a year. And with each Samsung series, let be the S series, A series, M series. M series personally is here only in India and few markets, and as the other series. But if you look at every what do you say uh, price, Samsung has catered to. Samsung is the only company like I feel has understood the market as well the price structure. If that's something which Apple could have done, I feel with the iPhone 16e, but sadly they did not do. If Dynamic Island was there with the action button, I feel most people would buy it regardless of the price tag. That is what I would personally buy it if you ask me. Because either way for me, Notch or Dynamic Island, I'm still like in a mixed boat. I feel mixed boat, but at the end, it's up to you to make the wise choice if you want the iPhone 16e or no, or get either the 15 Pro or 15 regular, or just wait till September and see what Apple has to offer. But personally, for me, iPhone 16e is the perfect phone for me, regardless of it has Dynamic Island or no. But that's the best phone I personally can buy. I feel now. But if I was, if you're a tech geek or tech nerd, then I would suggest you instead of buying the 16e, buy the 15 Pro and be happy. That way you are saving a lot of money, and you don't need to get the hideous 16 series. That's the regular and the Pro and Max, whatever. Yep. Do let me know how you feel about the iPhone 16e, and till then this is your Poetic Whiz. Do like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Live your dream.